Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Really appreciate all the support. Just want to let you guys know I am on Patreon. If you go on Patreon, you'll have access to my betting packages where I do have 4 years of consecutive double-digit profit. Along with that, you'll get access to my betting perspective on other organizations like LFA, Bellator, Ryzen, KSW. You'll get written content, you'll get other video content, you'll get access to my Discord and all that good stuff. So I really appreciate everyone that is already supporting and on the Patreon, and hopefully there's more people to join. So thanks so much for always supporting the channel. Let's get back into the video. Hey, what's up guys? We're back, and this week it's for a big card. It's the first pay-per-view of the year. We got 2 title fights, so definitely pretty excited for this event, pretty pumped up for it. But right before I'm going to go into the breakdown, just wanted to say this Thursday I am going to be doing this one it's going to be a live stream, but it's going to be a similar video to the video I did last week in terms of looking at the fights from more of a betting perspective. I'm going to have a guest on the channel with me as well, so we're going to be breaking it down live. If you want to join us Thursday, it's going to be around 8 p.m. Pacific time, and if you want to go there, ask me some questions, give your thoughts, your opinions. If you're into that kind of stuff, come check it out around that time. We're going to be live, like I said, breaking down the fights. And just another thing I wanted to say real quick is for the Fanatics app, last year we did the MMA event where we did the full year of picks, and the winner ended up being Austin Harkey's. I've been trying to get a hold of him. I've seen that he is still making picks on there, so I know he's still active, but trying to get a hold of him so I get a PayPal or something so I can send him his $100, and congratulations to him for winning the event. He did a great job, and they're still doing it over there, so if you want to go and join, it's going to be in the description. It's always fun to chop it up in the chat over there and, compare your picks to what everyone else is doing in this community. So it's pretty interesting. And, yeah, so Austin Harkey's, if you want to put a comment down there, you want to hit me up on Twitter, the Fanatics app, whatever you want. But if he doesn't answer, I'm going to give him one more week, and then I'm going to have to, I'm not 100% sure who it is, but I'll give it to whoever came in second place on there. But really appreciate everyone that joined that and was active on that and still is, continue to be active on that. So, if you want to join, like I said, it's going to be in the description below. And then obviously my links to Patreon, everything like that are going to be in the description as well. We're going to have some LFA bets, some UFC bets. But yeah, we're going to get into this card here. We got Jack Della Maddalena. He's an Australian here. He's going to be taking on Pete Rodriguez. Both of these fighters, they're making their debuts in the organizations. They're not super well known, but Jack Della, he definitely is the more experienced guy. You can see there, obviously, he has 12 fights to the 4 fights that Pete Rodriguez has. And he's 0-2 to start his career, but won 10 fights in a row. So he's been doing really well recently. He's probably very confident. Last fight he won was on the Contender Series. And he was getting in here. He was going to get a chance to fight a big-time opponent, Warley Alves, a guy that's a veteran, kind of up and down, but beat Colby Covington, had some big wins in the UFC. But Alves, he was forced to bow out. Now he's going to be fighting Pete Rodriguez, who's a fellow newcomer, 4-0. So there is high hopes for Maddalena. He needs to look impressive here against a short-notice opponent, and he's fairly well-rounded. He has a good high guard. He's athletic, pretty good footwork. He has good lateral, good in-and-out movement, and he has some power. He has some nice crosses. He'll have some power in his hooks to the body, to the head, good 3-2s, good uppercuts, good knees. And he has some good elbows as well on the inside. He has decent kicks, good leg kicks, round kicks, front kicks to the body. He'll attack with some high kicks, but isn't the fastest fighter. He can be hit coming forward. He is durable, and he tries to put the pace on guys, tries to get them tired, and then he'll land sharp counters. He's pretty sharp with his hands, and he has a good gas tank. So I would be wary of getting in a war in this fight. He has to be a little bit more tactical. But he does have the experience of getting in longer fights, probably the experience of being in tougher fights, and he is the superior grappler. I would expect he's going to try to mix it up here. He has okay takedowns against the cage. His scrambling ability looks half decent, and he will shoot some reactive doubles. He is okay when he gets on top. He has good ground and pound, and even if he's not successful with the grappling, I think mixing it up, just showing that he's going to threaten it, will make Rodriguez a little bit more hesitant. It'll make it an easier fight for Maddalena. Maddalena does have good cardio, like I said, so he needs to weaponize that. Pete Rodriguez, only 4 fights, 4 first-round finishes, so obviously it does not have a lot of experience, and he hasn't fought any great opponents in his career. His last fight, he did fight a 5-1 fighter, and he did beat him in 2 minutes and 21 seconds, so that was a fairly good win. He did have a good amateur career as well. He went 7-2 as an amateur. And he's a killer-be-killed fighter, though. He wants to stand in the center, go to war. He has a nice 10-second knockout where he flew right out with a flying knee, floored his opponent, finished him with ground and pound. And the fight, was a little bit controversial. There were some back-of-the-head shots. It was a little bit premature, but still, it was a 10-second finish. And he predominantly is a boxer, though, P. Rodriguez. He has pretty good footwork. He definitely has big power in his hands. He can switch stances. Pretty athletic, fluid guy. He has some nice counter hooks. He'll throw some body head combos. And I've seen him land like one-shot knockouts. So he definitely can crack. And fighters have to be on point defensively against him. I haven't really seen him get hit like too many times or get cracked hard. But he's a Mexican, man. He probably has that durability, that toughness. And he's struggled a bit against long fighters that can stick and move on him, use kicks. But he's finished all 11 of his opponents, amateur and pro, that he's defeated by knockout. So you know what he wants to go out there and do. And recently he's shown off his ground and pound. He's not really the greatest wrestler, but he's faced a lot of these lower level Mexican fighters that have good boxing and very poor grappling. And he made it look easy. He was able to use his intensity, his strength to get him to the ground, and then he has really big power in his ground and pound, and you'll posture up, let go with big punches, big elbows. And he's been able to get a lot of guys out of there pretty easily with that. I don't think that's going to work against Maddalena. If you look at one of his amateur losses, he looks pretty lost on the ground. He has a tendency to give his back. He will go flat. He will allow fighters to do damage with ground and pound. He was submitted in one of his amateur fights with a rear naked choke, and he also was out-grappled by Chris Yanez in another amateur fight. I have seen him get put in some very bad positions and work his way out and show some good toughness, so that's good to see. And I've seen him go in some longer fights and have decent cardio as an amateur. So this to me is kind of a close fight. I think Rodriguez, even though he's fought some lower level guys, he's a powerful tank. He has good hands. He has a lot of confidence. And he's tough. He comes forward, high guard, tight counters, good kicks. And I think he could, give Maddalena a lot of trouble. Maddalena is a guy that's fairly hittable. And I think, potentially he could knock out Maddalena early in the fight, but it's with his level of experience, only 4 fights, 4 first-round finishes. He's fighting a guy that comes forward and, is pretty durable himself. He likes to brawl. He's young. He is another fighter that has a lot of finishes, but he also has the experience of going in longer fights. He has triple the amount of fights of his opponent, and he was getting ready for Warley Alves here, so he was getting ready for a real guy. This is going to be Pete Rodriguez coming in here on short notice. I think moneyline wise, Pete Rodriguez definitely has some value at plus 250, but I'm going to pick Maddalena. I think he's going to weather maybe a little bit of a storm early from Rodriguez, but eventually he's going to find his range. He's going to start working some kicks. He's going to start attacking the body, I think, and I think Rodriguez is going to have a little bit of adrenaline dump, get a little bit tired, and then I think Maddalena is either going to finish him with a submission or with a TKO. So I'm going to go with the Jack Della Maddalena side. I just think it's too much of an experience gap, and I think he is a pretty skilled prospect himself. But wouldn't be shocked if Pete Rodriguez goes out here and just knocks him out in the first round. I think Rodriguez definitely has some potential. I think both these guys are going to be around in the UFC. So this is an interesting fight to kick off the card, but I'm going to go with Jack Della Maddalena by second round KO TKO. And with this next one, I'm a little bummed about this matchup. It was supposed to be Ilia Topuria taking on Movsar Evloev. That was going to be an awesome fight. It was a much more competitive fight. Now he's fighting Charles Jourdain, who, Charles Jourdain's a fun guy to watch. We just saw him whoop Andre Ewell's ass, man. That was a really fun, really interesting fight where he finished him at the end. Not finished him, but really dropped him with that front kick. It was a cool ending. And he has some balls to come in here on short notice against Ilia Topuria, but just on paper, I think it's a pretty bad matchup for Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain's a kicker. He likes to, kind of get crazy, keep the range, and then blitz in when guys get tired, start to really attack, up the volume, and he's pretty dangerous. He has good kicks. He's aggressive on the ground with his jiu-jitsu. I think he's a brown belt. His wrestling isn't really there, and we've seen him get tired. We've seen him wilt to pressure like against guys like Julian Erosa. We've also kind of seen him get hit before and get really hurt in certain fights, so he's definitely a guy that you could get to. You can take him down and hold him down. So definitely has some deficiencies. Sometimes it seems like his fight IQ isn't the highest. For Ilia Topuria, he's a guy that's came into the UFC and just looked incredible, man. He's 11-0. He's never lost. Another one of these Georgian fighters where last week we were hearing all the hype on the 145 Georgian fighter, Giga Chikadze. Everyone was talking him up. And I actually think that Ilia is the best fighter out of Georgia at 145 pounds. So he's going to have to continue to prove that with victories in the octagon. But he's already 3-0, I believe. 3-0 in the UFC. He has 2 finishes, so he's doing really good so far. His win over Damon Jackson, obviously, that was a highlight reel knockout with a really good body shot. His last fight, he finished off a really tricky guy in Ryan Hall with some ground and pound, and he has the win over Yusuf Zalal, where he came in on short notice, looked really dominant through the first 2 rounds, and then got a little bit tired in the third. I just feel like this is a bad matchup for Jourdain, like I said, because he likes to kick, keep it at range. His hands aren't the best. Takedown defense isn't the best. Fairly decent grappler, but Ilia Topuria has great pressure, great boxing, excellent footwork. He rips the body, comes up to the head. He has elite grappling, really good wrestling, really good submission game. And I just think he's going to get Charles Jourdain out of there, man. I think he's a class above. I think he wants to continue to show that he's ready for that elite or upper tier of the division. And I think Charles Jourdain's going to be another victim along the way here. So I think Ilia Topuria is going to pressure this guy, beat him up to the body, beat him up with his boxing, and then start to get the grappling game going. And I think he's going to get the submission in the first or the second round. So going to go with Ilia Topuria here. He's a huge favorite, so obviously, if you want to pick him, maybe look at the inside the distance, or maybe just look at this fight not going to decision potentially. Charles Jourdain inside the distance, that's usually how he gets his wins. And I don't really see him winning a decision against Ilia, so that's like 11-12-1. Those odds are fairly decent, but I think Ilia Topuria is going to get him out of there in the first or the second round. I'm going to say the first round is my official prediction, so first round submission for Ilia Topuria here for me. And I'm not sure this is another fight I'm not going to spend a ton of time on, because I literally just broke down this fight on the channel a couple weeks ago where they were supposed to fight, but the fight got canceled due to one of the camps having COVID. But my opinion on this fight hasn't changed at all. We got 2 low-level women here. We got Vanessa Demopolous, who is a grappler. She, I guess you could say, is okay striker. I mean, she has some power, comes forward, kind of very poor striking, very hittable, bad footwork, but she's a bull. She has great cardio, great durability, and she has the ability to come forward, wear damage, either pull guard or get the takedown somehow, even though her wrestling isn't really top-notch. And then her submission game on the ground is lethal. She has good submissions off her back. She has good submissions on top. She has good ground and pound, and she's been able to finish a lot of women on the ground. With Silvana Gomez Juarez, she's getting up there in age, 37 years old now. She is a good striker, though. I would say she's the better striker than her opponent. She has good leg kicks. She has a good jab. Her boxing is pretty crisp. But she does kind of back up, and she accepts being on the back foot, which against Demopolous, I don't really think she's going to have the footwork and the power to keep Demopolous off her, and her cardio is a little bit suspect as well. Going up in age, I don't think there's going to be too much of an improvement in the cardio. If you look at the level of opponents that Gomez has been facing, she's faced real low-level opponents, whereas Demopolous has faced a higher level of opposition. And I just think Demopolous eventually is going to be able to somehow get it to the ground, get it in her world, and get the submission or get the TKO finish with ground and pound. So I'm going to go with Demopolous via late second round submission here. I think she's going to pressure her, get her tired, get it to the ground, and get her out of there. So give me Vanessa Demopolous here. And this next matchup here is another rebooking. It's Raoni Barcelos and Victor Henry. They're supposed to fight a few weeks ago, and I think Henry's side had COVID, or one of his coaches had COVID, and that fight got canceled. So now Barcelos is taking on him now on a pay-per-view card. So a little bit of luck, I guess, their way. And Barcelos probably was hoping for a higher level opponent, but he is coming off a loss. It was a disputed loss, but ultimately it was more his fault. I feel like he could have pulled the trigger more. He could have done just a little bit more and picked up that victory. He was too complacent. He's probably going to be looking to get the finish in this one, but he's going to be facing a guy that's really tough. He's never been finished in his career with Victor Henry. Victor Henry is one of these guys that trains with Josh Barnett, and he has a pretty good backstory. He's fought all over the world. He fought in Asia primarily a lot and made a name for himself over there, beat some good fighters, and now he's going to try to come over here and do well in the UFC. 34 years old, so obviously time is of the essence for both guys. They're actually very similar in age. But Victor Henry, it's going to be his UFC debut. He has that catch wrestling style with Josh Barnett, like I said, and you know, his striking it really improved, but I feel like he's not going to be able to compete in the striking realm with a guy like Raoni. He does throw a lot of volume, and you have to be respectful of the level change, so he will fake the level changes, come over the top with some decent kicks and some decent counter crosses and lead crosses. He's not really the fastest or most athletic guy, and he has poor defense due to that. He takes a lot of damage, doesn't check leg kicks. I think that's going to be a big factor in this fight, but super durable, and he will try to stay in your face, wear you down, and similar to Raoni's last opponent, he's going to try to just do more than Raoni does, but he's facing a guy with superior firepower here for sure. And Victor Henry is a good grinder, stays active with his pressure, his clinch game. He has good dirty boxing, and he doesn't have the best wrestling, but when fighters slow down, he can eventually get him to the ground, and very aggressive, grimy on top. He has good ground and pound. He has okay submission game, not elite, but he does have some submissions he goes to. He has good cardio, and his takedown defense is not that great. I've seen him give his back as well. He's never been submitted, but I've seen several opponents take and control him from the back mount. He has 8 submission wins. In this fight, he's going to have to be wary of giving his back like that against a guy like Raoni. Raoni will take his back and either grind him out or get the submission. And ultimately, I just think Raoni is better everywhere in this fight. I don't think he's going to let that complacency lose him 2 fights in a row. I know some guys have that certain fight style, but I just feel like he has to be more aggressive here. He's going to be able to get a guy that's going to walk on the shots, that's going to force the fight, and that might be good for him. That might be able to allow him to show off his full skill set. And I think Barcelos is going to potentially be the first fighter to finish Victor Henry. I actually think Barcelos is going to submit him with a rear naked choke somewhere along the fight. He's either going to drop him and submit him or just catch him in a scramble. And I'm going to go with Barcelos here by second or third round submission. I do think Victor Henry's a decent fighter that could win fights in the UFC, but Raoni Barcelos is a high-level guy, and I think that he's going to come up a little short. Up next here, we got the second women's fight on the card. We got Kay Hansen taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius. And Kay Hansen, she's finally back in the cage. She had that controversial decision loss. That was all the way back in November of 2020 at this point. And she had some issues outside the cage. She had an eating disorder that she came out, she was public with. She had some injuries, and that has precluded her from fighting since then. And she's still super young, though. She's 22 years old, so she has a lot of time. And she's 1-1 so far, 2 UFC fights. 7-4, so she's pretty experienced for being 22 years old, but her record is a little bit salty. But she's mixed it with some solid fighters. She was an Invicta. Now she's had 2 fights in the UFC, and she's a grappler. On the feet, she's primarily a boxer. She's very aggressive. She tries to throw hard to get into the clinch or a position where she could level change. And she really just pressures forward with 3-2s. She's very hittable. She moves forward and backwards in straight lines, and she has some good knees, In her last fight, she used a couple kicks, but I don't really see her being able to use kicks in this fight with the range. In the dirty boxing room, like I said, she will throw knees, uppercuts, but even there, she's just not she doesn't have the most snap and that just elite level athleticism, I don't think, and she's not going to really do much or be that effective against many girls on the feet, in my opinion. But she's a tough wrestler, and she has good jiu-jitsu, very aggressive, and when she gets in top position, she's finished 6 of her 7 wins on the ground. So she's definitely a finisher. She's very strong. She has good doubles. She'll shoot the double, take the back, get slam takedowns, and sometimes she can go for some judo throws or judo-type takedowns in a clinch, and she needs to stay away from that against a longer grappler, and Jasudavicius, who could counter that. But when Hansen gets the fight to the ground, she's submission over position, jumps on the back, looks to get rear naked chokes, arm bars. When she gets taken, or when she gets reversed or taken down and put on her back, she likes to go for a lot of 10th planet stuff, a lot of submissions, things like that. And she can get held down. She doesn't really have the best game off her back, but she has good gas tank. She doesn't slow down. That's her advantage in this fight, in my opinion. But she's going to be the smaller girl in this fight. She's not used to fighting at 125 pounds. I've seen her talking about how she's only weighing around 130 pounds, things like that. So definitely going to be a smaller flyweight. She's most likely going to have to go back down to 115 pounds. But yeah, I think with the layoff, maybe she just wanted to make this pit stop here at 125. But she's going to be taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's another girl that has fought at 115 pounds. But I think she's solidified herself more as a 125er at this point. She's had a few fights in a row now at 125. Her last fight, she won a fight in the Contender Series. It was a decision against Julia Pilastri. And Jasudavicius, she's 32 years old. She's out of Canada. She's been training with Syndicate MMA for this camp, though, so she's in Las Vegas. And she should be in shape, and she has a good game plan for this fight, most likely. Overall, she's 6-1. She went 4-0 as an amateur as well, so she's done much better in terms of just record-wise, getting the win over Kay Hansen. And she's tall, she's long, she has a 5-inch height advantage and a 6-inch reach advantage, which is pretty significant. She's more of a grappler. On the feet, she uses her link to back fighters up and get in the clinch. She throws some pretty good straight punches. Her kicks are not the greatest, but she'll throw front kicks, leg kicks. She is a bit plotty, and she's flat-footed. She can struggle to get on the inside sometimes. Very little head movement. Definitely can eat punches. But she's durable. She's willing to take one to give one. She's never been finished. And in this fight, she's going to have a big advantage in terms of the height and the reach. So I think she's going to be able to use that to her advantage on the feet. And she's nasty in the clinch. She has some nasty elbows, really good knees. She's very aggressive. She's active there. She's a good grappler as well. Good body lock takedowns. When she gets on top, she has good top control, good ground and pound, or decent top control. I wouldn't say she has the best, but she likes to get to side control, work elbows. Her last fight, she did a better job of controlling her opponent and sitting in half guard. I don't really know if she's going to be able to hold someone like Kay Hansen down, who's a high-level grappler, but I haven't really seen too many girls look to take down Jasudavicius, nor have I seen Jasudavicius on her back much, so that's going to be something that's going to be potentially tested in this fight. And Jasudavicius has also gotten a little bit tired in previous fights. Her cardio needs to improve if she wants to move up the ladder in the UFC. But I think this fight's much closer to 50-50 than what the line indicates, where they have Kay Hansen as a minus 255 favorite. I think that's way too wide of a line. Jasudavicius, in my opinion, is going to be the better striker. She has a huge reach advantage. And I think in the grappling realm, both girls are good. I think if Jasudavicius gets on top, she could potentially control to go to work. And it's going to maybe come down to which girl can get the top position. Cardio-wise, I do edge it to Hansen, but Jasmine is the bigger girl. She's going to be in the best shape she's ever been in coming into her first UFC fight, you would think. And I think she's going to be able to land some nice strikes from the outside, force Hansen to close that gap kind of aggressively, and I think she's going to be able to get in the clinch, utilize her height and her size there, maybe get some takedowns, beat up Kay in the clinch a little bit. Hansen's young, and with the layoff, she could be much improved, but she's had a lot of issues, man, with that's a serious thing. But with the, obviously the eating disorder, she's moving up a weight class for this fight. And she could look the best she's ever looked, but it could also have the opposite result. And, I think Jasudavicius, at 2-1 odds is going to be the pick for me. I think that she should be lying closer. If this is a pick'em type of fight, I still probably would lean towards Jasudavicius. I just feel like she has the size advantage, big height and reach advantage in a close fight. I think she's a little bit crisper on the feet, a little bit more variation, and on the ground, I think that whoever gets on top is going to kind of win the fight. I think that both girls are tough, and yeah, I'm going to go with Jasudavicius to win a close decision in this one. And in this next fight, we got a bantamweight fight. We got Tony Gravely taking on Saimon Oliveira. Tony Gravely's an established UFC veteran at this point. This is going to be his 5th UFC fight. He was looking good in his last fight. He almost knocked out Nate Manise in the end of the first round, but Manise was able to make it to the second round due to being saved by the bell and then knocked out Tony Gravely. So Gravely's always had an issue with cardio. Came back to bite him again in that fight. He's a very skilled guy. He's a stud wrestler, really fast, really athletic, aggressive on the ground. He looks for the finish. He has really good straight punches. He has good power hooks on the inside. Good job feigning level changes, coming up with uppercuts, with overhands. He will throw some occasional body kicks. Not the most active kicker, but good technique. Defensively, he does leave a lot to be desired. He doesn't really move his head. Even he can overextend on punches. He sometimes, when he gets hit, likes to panic wrestle, and that's where he'll get submitted. And I would definitely avoid brawling or exchanging with Oliveira in this fight. I think that Gravely's tough. He's composed on the feet. He was finished for the first time in his career by KO in his last fight. And Manise is a heavy hitter, but Gravely has 6 knockouts himself. He has some power. His speed and his ability to fake the level change, come over the top, does help him with the striking. And he shines in the wrestling department. He has relentless cardio. He has good chain wrestling, or relentless wrestling. I would say his cardio in fights where he can be the hammer and really just dominate, it's good. But in fights where he has some guys that give him some resistance, he slows down. But he likes to establish his wrestling quickly. He has fast level changes, good singles, good doubles, big explosive slams. He has good takedowns against the cage. And in top position, he's active. He has really good passing ability. He has good ground and pound. He likes to hit the rear naked choke. He needs to be very wary of the guillotine when he shoots in against Oliveira in this fight. He's fallen victim to the guillotine in the past. And Gravely overall has been submitted 5 times, which is something that you really have to be kind of wary and cognizant of if you're going to put your money on him, if you're going to pick him in a fight. But when you look at the opponents that submitted Tony Gravely, most of them are pretty high-level submission guys. He also has strong takedown defense. I doubt he's going to get taken down against Oliveira. If he does get taken down, he's very hard to hold down. He's a good scrambler, but he gives his back to stand up, and that could cost him. It's cost him before. But he needs to implement his usual game plan here. He just needs to stay locked in, avoid getting caught in the submission, work his stand-up where he does the up-down type of thing, work the striking or work the wrestling in, and get the victory here. For Saimon Oliveira, he's another Contender Series guy. He won a split decision on the show against Jose Alday, and it earned him the contract here. 18-3, so he's a very experienced guy. And he's a fun fighter to watch. He's a finisher. Finished 16 of his 18 wins. An aggressive Muay Thai striker, and he's dangerous because he has good speed, good creativity. He likes to come forward with the high guard, typical Muay Thai stance. He has some heavy kicks, and then he likes to pull counter in the pocket. Very fast, very dangerous in exchanges. He does drop his hands when he throws knees or kicks, which allows his opponents to counter with huge punches. But he's very durable. He walks through shots. Sometimes he can get really wide, get really reckless. And I have seen him countered, get hurt. I've seen him get taken down due to his recklessness. But it also makes him a dangerous guy. And he comes in shape, pushes the pace. He has 5 knockouts. He's in for a tough matchup in this fight due to the wrestling. He has poor takedown defense, and most of his submission wins are guillotines. So he likes to go for the guillotine instead of defending the submission. He is dangerous with that when fighters shoot in on him. But off his back, he doesn't have a big submission arsenal. He doesn't have the best get-up game. He can allow fighters to control him like he did against Ari Varias. And Oliveira, he has good elbows, and he's very aggressive when he can reverse or get in a top position. And he's implemented some offensive wrestling in recent fights. He was able to take down and control all day on the Contender Series. He got some nice body locks. But against Tony Gravely, I don't really see him have the luxury of mixing it up and going for takedowns. He's probably going to want to avoid the grappling and being close. When he gets on top, or when he got on top, against Jose Alday, he didn't really let go with a ton of ground and pound. He was just more content to hold him down and pick up the win. And I feel like against Gravely, he won't be able to do that. But I kind of feel like this is Tony Gravely's fight to lose. He does sometimes find ways to lose fights, but I just feel like he's the faster guy on the feet, and he's going to have the big advantage in terms of the wrestling and the grappling. So I think he's going to be able to use his speed to set up the takedowns, control on top, and to win the fight that way. So I'm going to go with Tony Gravely to get the win here via decision. I could see him getting into a dominant position on the ground and finding the finish on the ground, but Oliveira never being finished, being super tough, having that submission threat and being dangerous on the feet, I think Gravely will probably play it pretty safe. So I'm going to go with Gravely by decision. And this next fight's a really low-level fight, but it should be a banger here with Matt Frevola, who always entertains, and he needs to bounce back here. Lost 2 fights in a row, but he got knocked out in 7 seconds in his last fight. That was the second time that Frevola's been knocked out in less than a minute in the UFC. So obviously he can get caught cold early, and if he gets caught again, gets knocked out, I think that might be the end for him in terms of his UFC career. But he's shown that once he gets warmed up, he does have a good chin, and he has a lot of experience at this point. This is going to be his 7th UFC fight. He fought on the Contender Series as well. And he's had mixed results. I mean, to be frank, he's only gotten 2 wins in his 6 UFC appearances. He did beat Jalen Turner, which is a decent win. Then he also beat Violent Bob Ross, Luis Pena. Has a draw with Lando Venata, which is another pretty solid fight, back and forth war, and Lando's a credentialed opponent. His losses came against Polo Reyes, where he got knocked out in 1 minute. Arman Sarukian, who obviously is a very high-level guy, and then his most recent 7-second knockout loss against Terrence McKinney. Frevola, he hasn't won a fight since October of 2019, so this is definitely a make-or-break fight for his career, and he's a wrestler. On the feet, he's fairly athletic. He has decent footwork and speed and likes to be in and out. He's a bit more kick-heavy. He has decent leg kicks, front kicks, round kicks, and in terms of the hands, he really just wings big overhand right. He will come forward with big, wide hooks to back fighters up and try to get the takedown, and he can't overextend and run into punches. He doesn't really have the greatest head movement. He also struggles with shots up the middle, like straight punches, knees, uppercuts, because he does kind of duck his head at times. And his chin obviously is a big question at this point, getting knocked out in 7 seconds in his last fight. He has been finished by strikes twice in his career. And he's a good wrestler. He has pretty good chain wrestling. He is good on top. He likes to take the back at rear naked chokes. He has good control, good ability to kind of just ride out decision wins. And he's a cardio machine, man. He can take big punishment and come back. If you can't finish him off early, he's one of these guys that picks up as the fight goes on, starts to do better. And he has a lot of experience in the later rounds. So in terms of him versus opponent, he has the experience edge and that type of thing. For Oscar Valdez, I mean, I wasn't really super impressed with what I saw from him. I mean, seems like a guy that likes to get takedowns and grapple, but the level of opposition that he was going against with the wrestling, I felt like was a very low level of opposition. And on the feet, he just seems real wild. He is willing to get into brawls, and that is dangerous against a guy like Frevola, who potentially has a weak chin, because Valdez in his last fight against Patrick White, that was a wild fight. Definitely showed that he's very durable, and eventually he was able to break his opponent and knock him out, but not without some adversity, man. He took some really bad punches, was almost knocked out himself, got hurt several times. And I've seen other fights where he gets takedowns, gets reversed, or he gets taken down himself. And I'm just not too sold on Genaro Valdez in this fight. I feel like he could potentially get the win because Frevola is a real low-level guy, but I don't really necessarily believe Valdez is a UFC-level fighter. So I'm going to go with Matt Frevola to grind out a decision win like usual here with his wrestling. Yeah, don't really want anything to do with this fight, though. And this next fight's hard to predict, man, with Michael Morales taking on Trevin Giles. I kind of like Michael Morales. He's young, he's undefeated, he's 22 years old. And I'm familiar with him because I cashed on him as a sizable underdog in the Contender Series. I felt like the line was off against Nikola Vertenikov, and, he got the victory in that one. It was a good fight, but you could still tell that he's relatively green. He's young in his career. 12-0, but 11 of his 12 opponents, all his opponents prior to the win he got on the Contender Series have been against lower level fighters. The best win that he had prior to the Contender Series was against an 8-5 opponent. And Morales, he has a ton of potential, though. He's super fast, he's athletic. His fade for the division is very tough to deal with. I mean, he has a 79-inch reach. He has go-go gadget arms. And on the feet, he's dangerous. He has a crazy reach. He has a speed advantage over most opponents. Really good 1-2s and 3-2s, long uppercuts. He explodes forward with blitzes, and he likes to kind of lull fighters to sleep. He'll back up to the cage and then bounce off the cage, get momentum, and just kind of come forward with a Superman punch or a big blitz of punches, and can catch guys and take them out. He's confident in exchanges, and he's dangerous there. Good kicker, nice leg kicks. But you could tell if you put him on the back foot, he's still not the greatest. He's hittable. He doesn't really throw much. He can hold his hands a little bit low. And, he still hasn't really fought someone that really kept a high volume of strikes out there and pressured him, kept him on the back foot. So, with Trevin Giles, that jab that he has, his nice punches, his good speed in his own right, I think it's going to be kind of a difficult read and a difficult fight for Morales. But Morales has 9 knockouts in his 12 wins, and obviously he's a dangerous fighter. And he's a decent grappler. He has good takedowns. He has good body locks. He's okay on top. He has good ground and pound. His top control doesn't really look very good, though. His defensive wrestling looked good in his last fight, though. He seems like he's very hard to hold down. His last fight, he was able to scramble off bottom, get on top more than once. Isn't a big submission threat, but he did go for an arm bar against Vertenikov, and he has 1 triangle choke. His cardio looked pretty good, but he doesn't have a lot of experience in long fights. And with Trevin Giles, it's going to be his 9th UFC appearance here. He's gone 5-3 in his 8 fights so far. He did have a 3-fight winning streak, but most recently that got snapped against Dricus du Plessis. And he was knocked out in the second round of that fight. It was the second time that he's been the first time, that he's been knocked out in his career. And he decided to make a big change now. He's dropping down to 170. And he's a big dude. He's a former light heavyweight. So if he can make his way down to welterweight safely, he's probably going to be one of the biggest welterweights in the division. And this matchup, with Michael Morales, it is a kind of a weird matchup because he's still going to be the smaller guy in terms of the reach, which you'd think that coming down to 170, you'd be having the reach advantage over a lot of opponents. But Trevin Giles, he's a guy that has really good hands, really good boxing, really nice jab, 1-2. Comes forward, and he can be aggressive at times, but in other fights he can kind of be real lackadaisical and lull and not really do much. And that's the type of performance that he can't have here against Morales. He has to be active. He has to stay in his face, get him uncomfortable early, show him that he's the veteran, he's going to be the one running what's going to be going on in the cage. And if he can get him on the back foot with that jab, get him in the clinch, get him a little bit tired, I think he's going to be a little bit more physical than Morales, then I think that he could have a lot of success. He has a huge experience advantage, man. I mean, look at the level of opposition that Trevin Giles has been in there versus who Michael Morales has been in there. It's a big difference. This is a hard one to pick for me because I do think Morales has a ton of potential. I think he has way more potential than Trevin Giles. And with Trevin Giles moving down to 170, I just don't really know how he's going to look. I mean, is he going to be in better shape and his cardio is going to look better and he's going to, fight better and it's going to be better for him? Who knows? Or is he going to be getting even more tired because he does traditionally have cardio issues and, maybe the weight cut will accentuate that. But I'm going to go with the veteran here. I just feel a little bit better picking Trevin Giles. I feel like Morales is too unproven at this point. But low confidence pick here. You could never really be super confident on picking Trevin Giles anyways. So I'm going to pick him here, but one of my least confident picks on the card. And so up next here we got two grapplers. We got Rodolfo Vieira taking on Wellington Turman. And Rodolfo Vieira, he's looking to continue to distance himself from that embarrassing loss to Fluffy Hernandez. Tries to make it 2 wins in a row on Saturday night here, and he did bounce back from that Hernandez loss. He got a submission win over Dustin Stoltzfus, and he showed some good signs in that fight. He went 3 rounds, got the submission in the 3rd round, and he also had more success with the striking. Vieira's 3-1 in the UFC, so if he could string a couple wins together, he could still be looking at a top 15 opponent. Wellington Turman is the guy he's going to be facing on Saturday, though, and it should be a competitive matchup with Rodolfo Vieira. He has good basics on the feet. His footwork is pretty good. He has a really nice jab, uses his jab early and often, kind of tries to touch and move, look to get his opponent frustrated. He will occasionally mix in that straight right hand. He wants to pull fighters into that straight right hand or his takedowns. Is kind of stiff. If you could press him, force exchanges, very little head movement, and obviously he's not really a striker, so he is a hittable guy. I feel like he is attackable to the body as well. I think his body is open to be hit. But some fighters, they're hesitant to throw kicks and they're hesitant to pressure because obviously they don't want to get taken down against Vieira. Vieira isn't a big kicker. I mean, he'll throw some occasional leg kicks, body kicks, but that's about it. And he is a good wrestler, especially for a jiu-jitsu guy. He has a good single, good job getting fighters off balance, then attacking the double leg, and he has good doubles, gets the cage. When he gets on top, he obviously has that crushing top game, some of the best passing ability in the UFC, and really good back takes. He's usually taking that neck home with him when he can take the back. He has good arm triangles. Certain fights, he has lost position on the ground, going for submissions and things like that. And I think that's mostly due to fatigue, having a crazy weight cut. His loss to Anthony Hernandez, he got submitted, but that was all due to fatigue. And his last fight, he did go to the 3rd round and got the submission, but I think that's still up in the air whether he's going to have the gas tank to continue to fight at this division. But Vieira's finished all 8 of his opponents. He has 7 submission wins. And he's going to be facing Wellington Turman, who snapped his 2-fight losing streak. He decisioned Sam Alvey last September. On the record books, it is a split decision, but Turman was docked 2 points. So in reality, he won that fight fairly clearly. He's a 25-year-old kid, so he should have a lot left in the sport. He's teamed up with Glover Teixeira, and he's getting good training. The main worry with Turman is his chin, and in this bout, that won't be an issue most likely. Both fighters are jiu-jitsu guys. They're not really known for their knockout power. Turman, not a great striker. He does have good kicks, good front kicks, good round kicks to the body. He'll throw some spinning kicks. He likes to use the 1-2 or the big overhand right to get in the clinch. And he does pressure forward. He doesn't really have head movement. He usually comes forward straight and backwards. So fighters have walked him into big shots. His chin is a big question mark. I think Turman may struggle on the feet in this fight with the jab. I haven't seen him, really show great hands. And I don't think he's going to be able to use a lot of his kicks because of the takedown threat. His footwork is not the best. He does have 4 knockout wins, and he's been finished by strikes twice, so he maybe has a little bit more pure power, a little bit better technique on the feet with his just full arsenal, but I think the jab and just the basics of Vieira are a little bit better. Turman, he is an aggressive grappler. He likes to use his striking to pressure guys to the clinch, work the takedown, and he's good at circling to the back from standing. He has good body locks. And on top, he has a pretty good submission game, but his top control is not the greatest. And it's going to be interesting to see if Turman wants to wrestle and grapple offensively with Vieira. Vieira is a world-class jiu-jitsu guy, good half-guard sweep. So it's going to be, kind of on Wellington to see if he's going to want to play in that world and try to swim there with Vieira. Turman, he needs to stay off his back in this fight, but maybe he could think he can get Vieira tired if he can get on top or if he could just force working takedown to clinch on the feet. One thing about Turman is he has never been taken down in the UFC. He hasn't really faced many guys that have tried to take him down, but if you remember his fight with Carl Roberson, he did lose position on the back a couple times, and Roberson had a lot of success holding him down. Turman, he seems like he's content attacking submissions off his back when he gets taken down. He'll look for leg locks, he'll look for arm bars, triangles, but against Vieira, I don't really see him getting a submission on bottom. Turman has 7 submissions. They're all rear naked chokes or guillotines. And he's never been submitted, so that's another thing that is interesting. You know, he could potentially push this to be a longer fight. He was pushing the pace late in the 3rd round against Sam Alvey. So I do expect him to be in good shape. 25 years old. He should be improving. And I think Vieira should get the job done, though, in this fight. It's a tricky one in terms of betting because it may go long. Vieira did get into that 3rd round in his last fight, but I don't really see him being a proven guy with the cardio. He is the guy with the better hands and the better footwork, and when he's fresh, I do think he'd land some nice jabs, 1-2s, maybe hit a takedown or 2. But Turman is not shown to have bad cardio, and I feel like if he could just continue to push the fight late, he could maybe get Vieira tired and get him out of there in the 3rd round. But I think that Vieira is going to win a decision, 29-28. I think he'll slow down a little bit in the 3rd, but I think he's going to have an advantage in the first 2 rounds in the stand-up and in the grappling. And I think that, you know, about 2 grapplers, Vieira's not having to face a world-class striker. Wellington doesn't really push a crazy pace. And I think Vieira could maybe get out of there with the win by decision. So I'm going to go with Rodolfo in this one. And in this next one, we got the first fight kicking off the main card. I think that they're going to add another fight on the main card. I don't know if this is going to officially be the pay-per-view opener, but as of now it is. It's Michel Pereira taking on Andre Fialho. And Michel Pereira was expecting a fight last week. He was also expecting to fight a different opponent in Muslim Salikov. Muslim was forced to withdraw from the fight, and it briefly did look like Pereira was going to stay on that card and fight Fialho, but had some issues with COVID, so they moved it to this week, and Andre Fialho is going to be the man that steps up and fights Michel Pereira at UFC 270, man. So Pereira going to be fighting on a pay-per-view here, and obviously he's a showman. He's super fast, athletic, great movement, dances around on the outside in pot shots. He has really nice jabs, good straight punches, throws some really nice kicks on the outside, and he's getting better at controlling the distance, sticking and moving, not being as silly with some of his techniques. And he's a tough style to fight because fighters need to pressure him to be successful. But if you pressure him, he has flying knees, he has spinning attacks, and he can put your lights out. So he's going to, be trying to just do the same thing in this fight, avoid that big left hook from Fialho, avoid being in boxing range too much, be all the way in or be all the way out. And he's proven to be durable for the most part. His last 2 fights came against Chaos Williams and Nico Price, 2 of the heaviest hitters in the division, and he was able to stay clean and stay unscathed. He's only been finished a couple times in his career, and Pereira is a solid grappler. I still think the way to beat Pereira is to pressure, jam his kicks, make it ugly, and mix in the wrestling. But I think it's going to need to be a pretty high-level grappler to get the job done or to take down Pereira consistently. Pereira did get grinded out against Tristan Connolly, and that is a really bad look, but he missed weight for that fight. He had no coaches, and if you put Pereira on his back, or put him on the back foot, he's not as good. But I do think that fight is not a good kind of indication of his overall game. Since then, he's used grappling more offensively. He's shown his black belt, and he's good reactive takedowns. When he gets on top, he has good control. Huge guy for the division, very heavy in top position. And he doesn't have great cardio, so that's something that fighters can take advantage of if they do push the pace. Nico Price was able to do that in the 3rd round. He had Pereira kind of really holding on for dear life, really turned him into a wrestler. But ultimately, I do think in this matchup, he has the same, if not better, cardio than Andre Fialho. So don't think it's going to come into too much of a factor here. And Fialho's also entering this fight on short notice. For his opponent, Andre Fialho, he's about experience as they come for a fighter making their UFC debut. He's had 17 fights, but he's fought high-level opponents. He's fought in Bellator. He's fought in the PFL. And most recently, he's gotten some decent wins. He's gotten 4 knockout wins in a row, but 2 of them came against Stefan Sekulic, who just recently was in the UFC at a controversial decision loss to Dwight Grant that a lot of people felt he should have won. And he also has a knockout victory over James Vick. And he's fought a really good level of opponents. I mean, on top of Sekulic and Vick, he's fought Glyco França, he fought Chris Curtis, he fought AJ Matthews, he fought Chidi Njokuani, and he's won 4 fights in a row. Like I said, all those wins are by knockout, so confident right now. He's going to be ready to go, and he trains out of Sanford MMA, so should have a good idea of where he stands. I mean, there's so many guys at Sanford from 155 to 185. Just to name some guys, Robbie Lawler, Luke A., Gilbert Burns, Jason Jackson, Logan Storley, Ian Gary, and those are just fighters in the 170-pound weight class. So Fialho is definitely getting some good training in with those guys. And he's a well-rounded fighter. He uses a long stance. He can switch stances, pretty good feints and fakes. He has fast hands. Doesn't really throw much in combination, but he has a really good left hook, really good rear cross. And he likes to counter with the check hook. And when he can connect clean, he has some big power. He can be low volume and just look for the one big shot. But more often than not, he's able to find it. He has some good kicks as well. Good low kicks, nice front kicks, round kicks to the body. He'll mix in some high kicks. He's a pressure fighter, but he is flat-footed. He's pretty plotty. And he has had trouble with fighters who can pot shot, move on the outside, put combinations together. He does have a tendency to shell up, back up at straight lines, kind of allow fighters to get combinations off so he can look for that counter. And if it doesn't land, he can let guys get ahead on the numbers. He is heavy on his lead leg as well. I think leg kicks are going to be something that Pereira is going to be effective with in this fight. But Fialho is tough. He'll walk through damage to eventually find his kill shot. And when he feels he has a fighter hurt, he does have killer instinct. He'll open up with big uppercuts, big hooks. He has 11 knockouts in his 14 wins. But he has been finished by strikes in 2 of his 3 losses. And Fialho is a strong grappler, and I wish he would use that a little bit more. He does have a good single. He can use the single to get fighters against the cage and chain wrestle. And when he gets on top, he has good back takes. It does seem as if he gasses himself out when he goes for takedowns, though, and he can end up being really panicky with the takedowns once he gets tired and end up getting finished on the ground himself. Antonio Dos Santos was able to put him on his back in the 3rd round, control him. Defensively, he does have pretty good takedown defense when he's fresh, though. In his last fight with Stefanca Kulic, he actually landed a huge shot that flatlines Kulic after defending the takedown. He does tend to slow down, though. 10 of his 14 wins have came in the 1st round. He's only 2-2 in fights that have gone into the 3rd round, and both of his decision victories were splits, so could have went either way there. I think the movement of Michel Pereira is going to be the difference in this fight. Pereira's upped his fight IQ, and I think that's going to be, I think he's going to be able to fight at his preferred pace is kind of what I'm trying to say. Fialho is a decent grappler, but he's smaller. I think he's going to be a little bit weary of going for the takedowns due to the knees of Pereira. On the feet, I think he's going to struggle with the kicks, the movement, the speed, and I don't think he's going to be able to get off much. He may do better in the 3rd round, but he also has cardio issues, so I think that Pereira is going to get the job done by decision most likely. Pereira knows that Fialho's best chance to win is that knockout, him exchanging or being kind of wild in the pocket. Pereira may be able to get a submission win or get a knockout win if Fialho really gets tired here. But I think Pereira is going to get the decision here. Fialho has a puncher's chance, but I just see him coming up a little bit short. So I'm going to go with Michel Pereira here, and I think he's going to be able to win fairly easily. In this next fight, this is a high-level fight here. We got Cody Stamann taking on Said Nurmagomedov. Said Nurmagomedov, he's represented the last name well. He's gone 3-1 in his first 4 UFC bouts. Recently, he's looked like a killer. He has 2 first-round knockout finishes in his last 3 fights. And he started his UFC career at flyweight, snuck by Justin Scoggins in a really close decision. And after that, he moved to 135, and it looks like his weight class. He did lose to Raoni Barcelos, but it was a close fight. Raoni is obviously a high-level guy. And his other 2 fights were first-round finishes. He recently just got a 51-second knockout victory. And Said Nurmagomedov, he's a different type of fighter than most of these Dagestani Russian guys. He is a mover. He has really good footwork, really, really long kicks. He likes to work his kicking game on the outside, and sometimes he'll work in some long punches, but not much of a boxer or puncher. He likes to use that, and then when fighters try to get on the inside on him, he has wicked spins, man. Spinning elbows, spinning back fists, super fast, really good accuracy, really good timing. So he's really hard to get in on, and then just his footwork and his length. He's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and that's going to play a big factor because I think he's the faster guy with the longer weapons, and I think he also has the better footwork, just better movement in general in comparison to Cody Stamann. And Said Nurmagomedov, one thing about him is, he's not really offensive with his wrestling or his grappling. I don't really see him going for takedowns in many fights. He actually has 7% takedown offense so far in the UFC. And Cody Stamann is obviously going to press the wrestling. That's going to be his path to victory in this fight. And Said has fell victim to that in the past. He has an amateur loss to Magomed Magomedov, who obviously is one of the best 135-pound fighters in the world, but a pure grappler. He probably was able to just grind out Nurmagomedov. And that was in 2012. It was an amateur bout, but also has a loss to Magomed Bibulatov, where he got grinded out. He got taken down quite a few times, controlled, got a little bit tired in that fight. And then in the UFC as well, his one loss against Raoni Barcelos, he was taken down in the second round, had his back taken for a brief period, lost that round due to that, and then was controlled for pretty much the entirety of the third round. So he has had issues with guys trying to take him down, and he's going to have to prove that he's improved in that aspect of his game for this fight. But one thing about Nurmagomedov, it's not like he's a fish out of water on the ground. He has really good scrambling ability. He's hard to hold down when he's fresh. Takedown defense and distance control, just ability to stay out of range of the takedown attempts is really good. He has to get kind of worn down a little bit, like in the Barcelos fight. Barcelos utilized a lot of leg kicks, slowed his movement, and then was effective with the takedowns. But Nurmagomedov, he tends to give his back to stand up, and Raoni, being a high-level jiu-jitsu guy, was able to take his back, backpack him, and just control him and ride out the victory. Don't really know if Cody Stamann is going to have that type of success, with controlling from the back. So that could be an issue with Said Nurmagomedov being able to get back up to his feet if he does get taken down. Cardio-wise, I think Said has good cardio, but I have seen him slow down in other fights. Those were lighter weight class fights, so potentially he might have had a tough weight cut. Now he's going to have higher gas tank. But that could be an issue for him against a cardio machine that likes to grapple hard. And after starting his career 5-1-1, Cody Stamann has had a bit of a rough patch. Lost 2 fights in a row. Hasn't been super active either. He only fought one time in 2021. So hopefully he can get back on track and be more active after this fight, win or lose. But they always put Cody Stamann against killers, man. I mean, he's been fighting the murderer's row, and it's not stopping here. Cody Stamann on the feet, he's improved. He has good footwork. He's a good athlete, but has real trouble with that reach disadvantage, just having short arms, short legs, short for the division just in general. So in this fight with the big reach disadvantage, he's going to struggle with the striking. He does have power in his hands, and when he can get on the inside and work his boxing, he has decent boxing. But, I think he's going to struggle with that movement and the footwork. And Stamann, he's a really good wrestler, wrestled in college, good top control, good ground and pound, elite cardio. And that's going to be the game plan from here. He's going to be trying to cut off the cage, close that distance, jam the kicker, get the takedowns, control on top, and grind out that victory. And he's going to try to utilize his pressure and his pace and wear on Said, get him tired. But I feel like Said is at least going to be able to bank 2 rounds with that movement, man, with his striking ability. Cody is super durable. He's never been finished in his career by strikes. So one of these guys is just really hard to get out of there. So I don't necessarily think Said's going to knock him out or anything or finish him, even though he's been really effective with his body kicks recently. He's been able to really hurt guys early in that first round. I don't think Cody Stamann's the type of guy to go out early like that. So I think Said's going to need to pack a lunch. It's going to go all 3 rounds, but I'm going to go with Said Nurmagomedov to win via 30-27 even, or probably 29-28 decision. So give me Said Nurmagomedov in this bout to get the job done. And now we're getting into the good shit here. We got the first title fight. We got Brandon Moreno against Deiveson Figueiredo. And Brandon Moreno, he's looking to solidify his championship status, put Deiveson Figueiredo in the rear view. These fighters have been linked to each other for over a year now. They had that draw in 2020. It was the fight of the year. They rematched 6 months later. Moreno got the submission win. And now to kick off 2022, we're going to get a final winner of this trilogy. And Moreno, he stayed solid. He's with his team. He's with his camp. Obviously, he feels very confident as the champion, finishing his opponent in his last fight. But Deiveson Figueiredo, he's made some changes. He's gone and teamed up with Henry Cejudo, fight ready. And obviously that gym is really good out there in Arizona. It looks like he's in incredible shape, and the weight cut is always something to worry about in Figueiredo fights, and apparently they've corrected that. They expect him to make the weight easily. I still want to see him on the scales on Friday, but if he looks significantly healthier, that may pay dividends on fight night. Figueiredo is once again trying to turn this fight into a grudge match, but at the end of the day, there can't really be more stakes on this fight than the title. But Deiveson is obviously with Henry's former tough coach, and Henry's trying to make a big deal of it as well, saying that Brandon went and helped Joseph Benavidez train for him and things like that. And, so I think that they're trying to build that up, and Deiveson obviously likes to play the heel in this for whatever reason with Brandon, so we'll see if that works out this time. But, Deiveson, he's a seek and destroy, type of fighter, probably the hardest hitter in the history of the 125-pound division. And this is his sixth consecutive title fight. So he's used to the pressure. He's ready for the moment here. Hopefully he's going to perform better than the last time he fought. And Brandon Moreno, I don't really know why his name doesn't get thrown in the mix when people talk about the best boxers in the UFC, because I feel like he's up there for sure. And this fight, if you look at the last fight, the main difference in that fight was just Brandon Moreno's ability to control the center and not being as scared. I feel like, not scared, but in the first fight, I think he was really weary of Deiveson Figueiredo's power. He wanted to feel out what he had, and he was letting Figueiredo boss the fight. He was backing up a lot early. He was skirting the cage. He was letting Figueiredo get on the inside, where that's where he wants to be, backing him up and just being effective. And in the second fight, you saw Moreno being way more offensive with his pressure. He was feigning, he was faking a lot. He was backing up Figueiredo, and Figueiredo really wasn't doing a lot, which I don't know. I feel like he did have a bad fight there, because early on in the fight he just started so slow, and then he did pick it up a little bit, but just was always kind of a step behind. But, I do think that Brandon Moreno coming forward, bullying the bully a little bit, really made a difference in that fight, because Figueiredo off his back foot, he got a little bit more wild. He wasn't able to, be as composed and be as clean as he is on the inside, where he's much more effective. And Moreno has the reach advantage. He has the height advantage. He was able to pick him apart with the long punches. And, I feel like that was a big factor in the fight. And I think Moreno has realized that he could take the power of Deiveson Figueiredo, which is huge. Now he's going to be able to pressure like he did. And now it's going to be on Deiveson to kind of mix it up. And I think what Deiveson is going to really try to do in this fight is, I think he's going to try to use leg kicks, try to wrestle in this fight early on. And I think he's going to try to come in with the better gas tank. So he's training with the fight ready guys, things like that. So there is potential that he does come in here in better shape. Obviously, maybe he could have a better weight cut and things like that. And I feel like he needs to use leg kicks early, not get in as many exchanges, because he just gets wide sometimes. He gets wild, and that's where Brandon can slip in those straight shots, slip in the jabs, the 1-2s, and hurt Deiveson Figueiredo, or kind of just really pick him apart. And if Figueiredo can work his leg kicks, get on top a little bit, then he could start to maybe slow Brandon Moreno's movement down just that much. And you saw on the inside, that's where Deiveson's very effective, man. He has really fast hooks, throws really nice body shots, head shots. On the outside, he's still dangerous, because he has that really, kind of piston of the right hand, man. It's kind of a missile. Shoots that straight right hand down the middle. He has the big uppercuts. But on the outside, he's always having to kind of lunge in, having to overextend. He gets really wide. And Moreno's just really good with his counter punches. He stays really, really confident and composed in the pocket. And he's able to just pick his jab or pick the two and just kind of drop him. And another thing that Brandon Moreno realized, I believe, in his fight, is that when Deiveson gets really aggressive and decides to pressure Brandon Moreno and try to be really offensive, Moreno has the ability to take him down with that body lock and change up the fight, get the takedown, make Deiveson a little bit more hesitant to pressure him and really be offensive, because he doesn't want to get taken down. Obviously, we saw why, because he was submitted in their last fight in the third round. And I don't know why, when I went back and watched that fight, I was kind of thinking, this was a first-round finish. I don't know why I was thinking that. I was thinking Pereira was like super dominant, but Deiveson did have a couple moments. He landed some punches. He was able to get a takedown or two, but it really was a clinic for Moreno, man. He was able to stay long. He was able to, when Deiveson tried to get wild and get in exchanges, throw those big hooks, stayed very calm, composed, didn't back up, picked a shot, dropped him, hurt him really badly. When he got him on the ground in the third round, he was able to really just, go to work and get that submission pretty quickly. And one thing that Moreno's always going to have over Figueiredo, just because of the way they fight, like Figueiredo loads up, he's really power heavy, he's explosive, he's a fast twitch guy. Moreno, he's more of a guy that touches, he moves, he's very finesse, and he can go all day. So the cardio is going to be in the advantage of Moreno all the time, and that's a huge factor in a 5-round fight, especially with this fight. When you just finished a guy like that, dropped him, submitted him, there definitely has to be some doubt in your mind, especially after Moreno has taken the best punches that Figueiredo has to offer in the first fight and the second fight. So I think that Moreno's going to get it done. I think it's going to be a tougher fight than last time, where I think Deiveson is going to come in and try to use a different type of game plan. But I do think that ultimately Moreno's going to be able to, he's going to take some leg kicks, I think, and I think that he will maybe get taken down early, but I think he'll be able to get back up to his feet. He's proven that he can. He has to avoid that guillotine, but other than that, I don't see a huge threat from Deiveson on the ground. And I think that, eventually he's going to get his rhythm on the feet as well. I think Deiveson's going to go back to his old style where he's starting to throw wide, getting real aggressive. He wants to get that belt back. He's an emotional type of fighter. And I kind of feel like Brandon's going to get the finish again, either via submission or knockout. I think it's going to be third, fourth round, similar time frame to his last fight. And I think Deiveson's going to go up to 35s. But I do think these guys, man, they made for an excellent trilogy. Two freaking beasts, two champs. So respect to both guys. Whoever wins, it's going to be a great fight. I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno here, and I think he'll get I'll say third round submission win. And now we got the main event here. We got Francis Ngannou taking on Ciryl Gane. This is an epic fight, man. This is the heavyweight UFC title. It's a fight where there's a great storyline as well with Ferdinand Lopez, the old coach of Francis Ngannou, the current coach of Ciryl Gane. They have a bit of a beef now, him and Francis, where they've taken shots at each other in the media. So there's obviously a little bit of tension. We saw that backstage thing where Francis kind of just big manned him and walked right by him, didn't say anything. And I feel like Ciryl is not really the guy that he's going after at all. Ciryl seems like a really nice guy. He doesn't really ever talk shit. Seems very, very likable. So I don't think that him and Francis really have an issue, even though I don't think they're great friends either, or were friends really when they trained together. But he has a problem with Ferdinand Lopez, so that's a big thing going in this fight. And another thing is just the whole thing with Francis Ngannou and the issue with the UFC. Obviously, for one, Ciryl is the interim champ, where they gave him this interim title fight like 5 months after Francis Ngannou won the undisputed belt. They're having problems with contract issues. Francis is already kind of teasing fights with Tyson Fury back and forth. So, a lot of issues or different things outside the cage going on with Francis Ngannou. But one thing I do know is if he goes in here and obliterates Ciryl Gane in 20 seconds like he has other guys in the past, it's going to be really tough for the UFC not to give him what he wants. So there's a lot of motivation there. And, it could go the other way where Francis is all in his head and maybe he freezes up like we've seen him in other fights. But it's going to be interesting to see what goes down. I mean, obviously these guys have sparred each other as well many times. Francis's old coach is the coach of Ciryl, so he has some inside knowledge on maybe some tendencies or some things that Francis likes to do or will do during this fight. And there's just a lot of variables, but man, there's so many people that have such supreme confidence in Ciryl Gane, and I just don't know how you could ever be confident against a guy fighting Francis Ngannou, man. I mean, just like whenever that fight ended with him versus Stipe, everyone was thinking, who's going to beat this guy? He's going to have a huge title reign, and now he's a minus or plus 140 in some spots. Big, like that's not a big underdog, but Francis Ngannou is an underdog. Anytime you see that, you know, even if I'm gonna pick Ciryl Gane, let's say, and I think it's a bad matchup, but man, I mean that's like the best puncher's chance you could ever get. So as an underdog, there's always value on Francis Ngannou, I think, and I think it's scary, man. I don't know if you could warrant a bet on Ciryl like a minus 150, but just in terms of how the fight is going to go down, I do think Francis has made quite a few improvements in the grappling realm, and I think that he's made improvements in terms of just his fight IQ, composure, just getting more experience, things like that. But I still don't think he's that technical of a striker. I mean, I think that's pretty evident. One thing I do think he doesn't get credit for is his leg kicks, and I do think he will look to utilize those in this fight. I think both these guys are going to try to use the leg kicks, but Francis, when he fights guys that likes to move a lot, like when he fought JDS, he really threw a ton of leg kicks. Even in his fight with Stipe, he was throwing some big, heavy low kicks, so he's starting to implement that into his game a little bit more, and you know, that's going to be a factor. If he wants to beat Ciryl, I think he should chop him down, try to limit that movement, and you know, eventually get in with the hands if he doesn't get him out of there really early with that patented blitz. But Ciryl Gane, he's probably the most technical heavyweight striker that we've ever seen in the UFC. He moves like he's like a welterweight. He has great footwork, switches stances, definitely kick-heavy guy. He has pretty good hands. Like, he has an excellent jab. He has good straight counter punches, but not like the best boxer. Like, if you get in the pocket, he's not really going to exchange with punches with you or anything like that. He likes to kind of be all the way in or all the way out type of fighter. And, you know, sometimes you do see him, like, when guys blitz in on him, he'll almost run away, or he will shoot the single leg. So he can sometimes be a little bit predictable. And with Francis, that's something that's a little bit scary, because if Francis kind of can catch him when he's level changing for that single with an uppercut or a knee or something, he could knock him out, flatline him, and you know, end his night, go home with the belt. Also, you know, he could also just potentially just blitz him, and Ciryl kind of has some awkward defense, and he just knocks him out there. But Ciryl has an excellent head movement, man, and he has really, really good distance control. Very rarely does that happen where he gets out of position, or you know, he allows a guy in the pocket with him. But they're going to be in the bigger cage as well, which I think is going to help aid Ciryl in this fight. But Cyryl's going to be looking to work leg kicks on the outside. I think that's going to be his main weapon early in the fight, his leg kicks and the jab. Francis Ngannou, you know, he throws really wide punches, and he is dangerous. I mean, obviously he's very fast. He waits for the counter, and he has really good counter uppercuts, which is something I think is going to be scary for Ciryl. That's going to be the shot that he has to avoid. But I think that Ciryl, you know, is just way better with his footwork, with his movement. He's going to be able to touch him on the outside with the kicks. He's going to hit him with the jab. I think Francis is going to get frustrated. One thing about Francis, though, is the guy has a iron chin. We've never really seen him hurt, and I don't really see Ciryl pushing it, you know, like staying in the pocket, trying to knock him out. So I think it's going to be a long fight ultimately, and I think Ciryl is going to be able to kind of manipulate the distance with his fakes, with his fades, freeze Francis a little bit after he touches him. I think he's going to be able to kind of just be the superior striker technically. Francis may go for some takedowns and things like that, but if he doesn't get him early and really solidify some top control, or get it where he can slow down the fight after he goes for the takedowns, I think he's going to get tired, man. I still don't necessarily think he has that 5-round cardio. He did look more composed in his last fight. Winning the second round was fairly fresh. But, yeah, I mean, Ciryl is definitely going to be the guy with the superior cardio. I don't really feel like Ciryl pushes a big pace in any of his fights, though. He has a lot of fights where he's facing guys that are fairly flat-footed. They don't really close the distance on him and force him to fight, and they allow him to stay at that kickboxing range and just kind of just freeze him with the feints and with his kicks, and he's able to just do enough to get the win. And that's why sometimes his fights aren't that appealing. But it's going to be tough for Francis to deal with that, man. It's tough for anyone to deal with that. And, you know, I don't know. I just feel like Francis is not going to have success getting on the inside against Ciryl. I think Cyril is going to be constantly moving. He's going to be switching stances, faking, feigning, using that lateral movement, not getting stuck against the cage, and just making life miserable for Francis with the movement. I think Francis is going to try to work the low kicks. He might try to mix in some takedowns, and early on, he's going to be a motherfucker. I mean, obviously, for anyone in the world, man. I mean, he could blitz in and knock out Ciryl first 20 seconds of the fight, and no one would be surprised. So he has the best puncher's chance of anyone in the world, but I just think Ciryl's cleaner. I don't think Ciryl's going to be able to grapple here. I see some people say, I mean, he'll mix in the takedowns, things like that, but I don't think so. I think Francis is the superior grappler. I would try to avoid going for takedowns, shooting, things like that. I would really try to avoid being on the inside of Francis or being near him at all costs. So I think that being on the outside for Ciryl is the game plan here, sticking and moving. And he has some of the best fight IQ in the UFC. Just probably the best striker we've ever seen at heavyweight. So going to go with Ciryl here. I just think he's going to be a little bit better than Francis, get the decision win. But, man, I just think a lot of people are very disrespectful towards Francis in terms of saying, like, it's a lock, or, you know, Ciryl's definitely going to win. I mean, I don't know. I could never have that much confidence. But going to go with Ciryl Gane to move his undefeated record to 11-0, get the win for his coach, get the win for France, bring it back, and, you know, become the undisputed UFC champion. So Ciryl Gane by decision is the pick for me in that fight. And that's the full card breakdown for UFC 270. Hopefully you enjoyed this, got something out of it, and really appreciate everyone. Hopefully I get some more engagement on this video. Put some comments down below. Hit the like button. And what I'm going to do for this video is if they put down what their fight of the night is, the first 3 people that get the fight of the night correct, I will give them my bets for free for next week. So just put down which fight you think is going to be the fight of the night. Make sure if you see someone or a fight that's already been mentioned quite a few times, maybe you'll want to go with another fight, because only the first 3 that I see, or the first 3 that commented, are going to get it. So if there's like 7 people that pick Moreno versus Deiveson, only the first 3 will get it. So make sure to kind of look and switch it up if you see a lot of people want a certain fight. But yeah, so 3 people are going to be able to get free access to my betting package for next week. And they just got to put the comment down below what they think their fight of the night is. And also, like I said earlier in the video, going to be doing a live stream on Thursday, so come check that out if you're interested. But for the parlay of the week here for this fight card, it's going to be Michel Pereira, Ilia Topuria, and Raoni Barcelos. For my most confident pick of the week, it's going to be Ilia Topuria. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back next week to break down the card. And, yeah, catch you guys then.